What's up, guys? It's your favorite Cube Coach. Welcome to another video. We got one special guest and one so-so interpreter with us today, but it's going to be a great video. Don't let the interpreter get you down. Alex, why don't we introduce our guest?
皆さん、ようこそようこそ。いつもの、キウイコーチと、通訳のアレックスです。今日もよろしくお願いします。今日はスペシャルゲストがいますけれども、ゲスト自己紹介お願いします。
インスタグラムでゴルフスタイル0720でやってます。本名は細田明宏と申します。よろしくお願いします。
よろしくお願いします。
So thank you again, guys, for joining and thank you for watching this video. Let's go talk about the three main things that I'm going to call him H-Sun wants to work on in today's lesson.
今日のメインポイントは、ゴルフを始めてから5年経ってるんですけど、ちょっといろいろスイングについて悩みがありまして、1点目がダウンスイングで状態が沈み込みが激しくて、やっぱどうしてもコースとかでダフってしまうことが結構あります。あと2点目は、ちょっと下半身の使い方がいまいちよくわからなくて、そこの点もついてもスイング分析していただければ嬉しいです。3点目にインパクトがすくい打ちになっちゃうんですよ。どうしても弾道が高くなってしまって、もっとプロの選手みたいな低い球が打てればと思ってます。
Fair enough. Yeah. All right, so tell him to kind of start this lesson off then. It sounds like for him, let's just go straight hop into the golf swing. We'll take a look at kind of what he's talking about, address his first point, second, third, and then from there, hopefully give him some ideas. Okay, so let's go kind of to the kind of the body lowering action first. And let's kind of show him if is he too low or is he not low enough? Let's kind of talk about that first. When we think about too low or not, one of the first places we like to check, Alex, which we do this in lessons all the time, is going to be the lower back angle. Actually, the range that we typically see is anywhere from like 150 to 145. So he's not really outside of the range of kind of normal for if this is like a 7-iron kind of iron range, he's not so bad. He's actually in a pretty good spot. So in terms of the lower back angle, he's not so bad. Now, if we go take a look at maybe some other checkpoints when you're talking about, is my body getting too low? Another one we take a look at is going to be the knee flex, right? He's over at 124 degrees, which is actually quite low, right? So we're going to see a lot of guys around like maybe the mid 140 range, the low 150 range. Yeah, so I think what he's seeing, or maybe when his friends tell him that he's getting too low to the ground, it's not necessarily his upper body getting too low. It's actually his lower body is getting too low.
Hi.
If we go compare him to like a pro, I can give him maybe a better visual for this. So if we go down to like P5, you're going to see a massive change between the knee flex, right? So he's right around 154.
すごいです
ね。結構すごいですね。
Yeah. So tell him in terms of his upper body, I wouldn't really worry about it going too low. However, with his lower body, yeah, we definitely need to work on a feeling where the knees don't get so flexed and so close to the ball, right? Your knees are really close to the ball. Now, in terms of answering his question on why he hits the ball so high, I don't think it really has anything to do with how low he's getting. I think it more so has to do with kind of this move right around here. Alex, he starts to get the club really far inside and he starts to get the handle really high. And then he also starts to kind of extend his body and then add on loft. And this is really, I think, what's causing him to hit the ball so high.
Hi.
Yeah. So tell him I'm going to hop out of this for a sec just so I can show him a visual. This might make it easier to see.
はい、お願いします。
So he's pretty good here, but then what happens is if you watch my shoulders, he starts to really go tilt, 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 tilt like this. Hands get really high, and then he just from here, from the face on, you'll see him kind of go this way and early release that. So it's really how he moves his shoulders and his body from position 5 to position 7 that's causing all the issues. That's what we need to change.
なるほど。
One of the things I noticed, especially really early in transition, even top of swing, we can see it, but really early in transition here, we can see the elbow is quite far behind the body, and it's really internally rotated at this position. Yeah, so if we go take a look, if I go compare him to maybe a pro again, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. If we go take Taiga kind of down to a similar position here at P5, do we notice the difference between the elbows here?
はい、見えます。
Okay, so this is what we're going to go for. So those are kind of the three checkpoints. So to kind of wrap up, really what we're looking for, the two checkpoints are at position 5, and then one checkpoint is going to be at right, let's just call it kind of this position right here, Alex. So close to position 8 will be the next checkpoint. So this checkpoint is going to look a little bit more kind of this way. So the main difference that we're seeing here is going to be the axis of the shoulders and then the position of the hands. So now that we kind of have the 3 checkpoints that we're trying to work on, let's show him like our implementation process, and we're going to show him how the hell he can actually fix this. So the first place to start with our implementation process is first, let's just isolate one checkpoint at a time. So the first place I would start out for him particularly is going to be his knee movement, right? So we're going to try to isolate that first.
コーチが修正するときには、一つのポイントを修正したいんですよね。全部いっぺんにやるより、最初に膝を修正したいと思って。
So what I wanted to do is I want him to get up to position top of swing. I want him to hold the top of swing position for 3 seconds and then swing down and hit the ball around kind of half speed.
一つ目の修正ドリルは、トップポジションまで行っていただいて、3秒間フリーズしていただいて、ハーフスピードでボールを打ってください。
はい。
Now, while you're doing that and while you're freezing, here's the most important thing to think about. Typically, my normal feeling produces too much knee flex. So I want you to think about how much do I need to straighten my knees so that I get the correct checkpoints. That's what he needs to think about.
トップポジションで止まるじゃないですか。その3秒間止まってる時には、普段のスイングでしたら、膝を曲げすぎてますので、どんな感覚で正しいまたは理想な、曲げ具合になるか考えてみてください。
Okay. Now, this is probably the biggest issue we typically have with our clients in lessons, and we get obviously a lot of amazing results on YouTube. However, the way that we win about it is the client has to really push through their mental barriers to be able to break certain parts about their golf swing. So don't push yourself to the extreme. Feel like you're hyperextending your knees almost. That might even get you the result that you want. All right, and just a quick quiz. Does he remember what's the correct checkpoint for the knee flex at P5?
で、ちょっとここでちょっとクイズなんですけれども、P5 の時点で正しい、膝曲げ具合の角度って覚えてますか？はい。
140から150前半。
OK です。OK です。Yeah.
So he's paying attention. Okay, good. So tell him now, once he goes through that one part stop and go at P4, the next stop and go I want him to do is going to be at position 3. So it's going to be kind of roughly right around here.
で、これが一つ目のドリルです。で、
はい、
次のドリルは、P3 で止まっていただいて、1、2、3、バックスイングの残りをやっていただいて、打ってもらいたいです。それもハーフスイングで、同じポイントに注目してください。
Now, tell me the key things we find with a lot of our clients is when they switch to the P3 stop and go, it becomes incredibly difficult. So whatever you had to feel to break through at the one part stop and go at P4, you might almost have to double that feeling. So the feeling tends to have to be more extreme.
ここでクライアントさんがよくチャレンジとして難しいところが P4 のドリルの感覚でうまくいった感覚を倍ぐらいに感じないと P3 のドリルがうまくいかないんですよ。今のところ大丈夫ですか？今の説明で なぜここが難しいかというと。
はい。大丈夫です。
So moving on from there, the next part that we would have him do is going to be like a half speed swing without stopping.
次のドリルとしては、ノンストップハーフスピードですね。
はい。
And then last but not least, the last part of the process is going to be the full speed swing without stopping.
で、次の段階がフルスピードノンストップです。
As he's going through that process, Alex, one of the most important things is he needs to make sure he only focuses on the single checkpoint that he's trying to focus on. One of the biggest things we see our clients do is they hop around so easily, right? Even if you're not trying to do it, it's just so easy to do.
で、この流れの時に、やっぱりP4、P3、ノンストップハーフスピード、ノンストップフルスピードの流れの時に、一番重要なポイントが、膝だけに注目することです。はい、急に 肘がこれ気になる、ハンドパスが気になる、腰とかなんかいろいろ気になる、それはキリがないので、一つのポイントに注目することが重要です。
はい。
Alright.
Okay, now moving on from here, the next checkpoint that you would kind of go through a similar process is going to be the elbow. Now, specifically with the checkpoint, if we can kind of use Taiga as a representative here, you need to draw an angle on the elbow like such. And you're going to see that Taiga's right around 67 degrees. So we like to see people kind of, depending on mobility, but anywhere from like kind of high 70 range to maybe kind of getting into like the low 60, high 50 range is kind of the range.
で、次のテーマとしては、肘になりますけれども、肘はタイガさんの、P5 の時点の肘を測りますと、曲げ具合が64度なってますけれども、この肘の角度が、60前後を、70、70入っても全然 OK です。
Fair enough. Okay. So now he's going to go through an identical process, right? So the first step of the process would be a P4 one part stop and go.
一つ目のドリルが先ほど膝と同じドリルで P4、で止まっていただいて1、2、3でダウンスイングしてもらいます。
Again, this is just like the knee, right? One of the biggest things we find is people tend to not overdo it when they first start, right? So I want him to try to find the other side. So if he needs to feel like his elbows are touching each other as he starts his downswing, I'm okay with him trying that feeling. Just experiment and try to find what feeling you need to feel to get to the correct angle.
で、膝と同じなんですけれども、極端な感覚でやっても OK です。恥ずかしいほど肘を中に入れないといけないかもしれないですね。理想的な範囲の中に入るために、もしかしたら恥ずかしいほど、もう本当に肘が、当たるぐらい、肘が当たるぐらいダウンスイングしないといけないかもしれないですね。
Okay, and then after the P4, go to P-Sun, then go to the half speed, and then go to the full speed.
で、同じ流れで次のドリルが P3、3秒間止まっていただいてスイングしていただきます。ここでまたもしかしたら P4 のドリルの間隔を倍にしないといけないかもしれないですね。次のドリルがハーフスピードノンストップですね。で、その次が先ほどと同じく、フルスピードノンストップです。
Okay. So the last one we're working on, remember, is going to be roughly kind of this position 8 right here. He's at 21 degrees. We want to be, I would love to see him in the mid 30s to low 40s. That would kind of be a good range, right?
で、P8 の修正ポイントとしては、肩線ですね。細田さんが20何度だったんですけれども、35から40前半してもらいたいです。
はい。
So now tell him for this one, we're actually going to use a slightly different implementation process. We're going to start out doing a one part stop and go at P6. So a one part stop and go at P6 would be you stopping right around here. You'd go ichi ni san and then swing.
で、P8 の肩線を修正するためには、さっきのドリルと違います。P6 で止まっていただいて、打ってもらいたいです。で、ここはまたP6 で止まっていただいて、1、2、3数えて、上げていただいて、打ってください。
はい。
Alright.
Now, after you do the P6, the next one I want you to do is going to be a P5 stop and go.
で、次のドリルが P5 で止まっていただいて、で、打ってもらいたいです。
はい。
And then last but not least, I want him to do a P4. And we're not going to do any non-stopping swings for this particular swing mechanic.
で、次のドリルが P4 なんですけれども、トップポジションですね。この修正ポイントとしては、ノンストップはやらないでください。
Okay, so if he hasn't noticed there, he has 3 micro checkpoints. He has really 2 macro checkpoints, right? P5, P8. Tell him we're going to give him percentages for each checkpoint, and then we're also going to give him percentages of time towards the stop and goes and non-stops. So I'm going to base this off where I feel like you're going to struggle the most. So first off, I'm pretty confident your elbow position is going to be the most difficult for you. So we're probably going to put about 60% of our time on the elbow for the first month.
多分、肘の修正が一番難しいと思いますので、6割練習してもらいたいです。
はい。
Now, I think the knees might be the second most difficult. So we're going to spend roughly right around 30% on the knees next.
で、膝が3割。
And then 10% is left over for the shoulder axis. Yeah.
で、肩線が1割です。
Okay, so if we do the 100 golf ball rule, right? Real quick math, that'd be 60 for the elbow, that'd be 30 for the knees, and that'd be 10 for the shoulders. Yeah.
で、まあ、例として100球打ちますと、60球肘、膝が30球、肩線が10球です。
So now, the elbow and the knees have an identical implementation process. So tell them we're going to give them the percentages for that one first. Okay, so for the basically one part stop and go at P4, and for the P3, I'm probably going to spend about 60% on P4 and then 40% on P3.
肘と膝、両方と同じドリルになりますけれども、P4 ストップ&ゴーが6割、P3 が4割です。
はい、大丈夫です。
And then half speed and full speed, we're probably going to do a 70-30 split. So 70% on half speed and then 30% on full speed.
ノンストップハーフスピードが7割、ノンストップフルスピードが3割です。
So now moving into the shoulder checkpoint, we're probably going to spend for P6, P5, P4, we're going to do like let's just call it a 60% for P6. We're going to put 30% for P5 and then 10% for P4.
肩線の割合なんですけれども、P6 が6割、P5 が3割、P4 が1割です。
はい、大丈夫です。
So before we kind of do a little bit of wrap up here, for him personally, walk me through kind of his questions about the lesson so far. Is there anything that he's like not really clear about? Does he feel like he has a clear plan of action, or does he still feel like he's really confused all over the place? Yeah.
で、全体的に今日のレッスンに関しては何か質問ありますか？
まず足の下半身の使い方なんですけど、もうバックスイングでも伸ばした状態でバックスイングを取って、そのインパクトまでのなるべく膝を沈み込まないような意識な感じでいいんですかね？
Absolutely. Tell him, if I were going to be honest, I mean, there's a lot about his golf swing that I'd love to change. However, you got to be realistic when you're trying to change too. I mean, a lot of our clients, 3 things is typically more than enough. But yes, there's much more that I would love to kind of get to, but I think these are the most relevant, and then I'm hoping these will kind of trickle down and start to change other things.
大丈夫ですか？
はい、大丈夫です。ありがとうございます。
Okay, and for the audience at home, maybe what they can do is pause and comment down below the answers to this question. But what were the checkpoints for the elbow? What were the checkpoints for the knees again? And what were the checkpoints for the shoulder axis? We'll have an answer.
細田さんにも質問なんですけれども、覚えてますか？肘の角度とか、膝の角度と肩線。
はい、膝が140から150。前半。
Okay.
肩のラインが30から40前半くらい。
Mid-30s to 40s, whatever. He's close enough.
ちょっと肘が。
肘が、60前半から70後半です。
はい、ありがとうございます。
Now, let's pretend we had a hypothetical situation here. He's in his practice. He's going through the implementation process. Let's say he's doing a half-speed swing, trying to work on the elbow. And all of a sudden, he sees that his swing is reverting back on camera. What are maybe some tools he can use if that happens?
で例えば、練習中で肘の、ドリルをやってます。ハーフスピードで、また癖が出てしまいました。その時ってどうすればいいと思いますか？またいい形になるためには。
またやっぱりもっとゆっくりなスイングでドリルしていくっつうのと、あとやっぱもっと大げさに練習ではやっていくことですかね。
That's definitely an option. Yeah, exactly. And then when he does it more extreme, what I really want him to focus on is establish a percentage. So how do you feel like you're doing 100%? Do you feel like you're doing it 0? And then also establish when you're doing it too as well. Do you feel like you're doing it in transition and consistently holding it? Or do you feel like you're just doing it in transition and then not worrying about it? Like I want him to start seeing it in that way. And that's going to really help him have some data to look at and then hopefully be able to kind of change everything accordingly. Very good. So, does he feel 100% confident that he can accomplish this by himself?
これでご自身で、練習していただいて、いい結果出る自信ってありますか？
そうですね。今年は本格的にしっかり練習して、競技ゴルフとかも出てみたいと思ってるんで、頑張りたいと思います。今までどうしても、コースとか日程が入ってしまうと、元のスイングに戻していい状態で、スイングがなかなか変えられなかったんで、ここでしっかりちょっとスイング修正したいと思ってます。今回をきっかけに。
いいですね、いいですね。この流れとしては大丈夫でした？
そうですね、大丈夫ですね。あと、肘の件なんですけど、入れ方っていうか、バックスイングの時点でなるべく肘は近い方がいいんですかね。それとも俺の感覚にもよるのかもしれないですけど、今の状態の感じでトップは作ってそこから右肘をつけるっていうか、まあ人それぞれなんですかね。
Yeah, that's typically why we changed P4, right? Which would maybe be something if we ended up doing like another one of these, or if he was a potential client, we would definitely probably in a lesson it would have gone to P4. However, at this point, I'd love him to just worry about those three for now. Don't necessarily worry about the backswing. But if we go through this and he starts kind of experimenting and he feels like it might be easier to also change the backswing, come back to us and then we can kind of reevaluate if we want to do the backswing.
今のところはバックスイングは気にしなくても大丈夫です。今日やったドリル通りに、やってみてください。ですが、それでもなんか修正できない、もっとなんかまだ気にしてますっていう感覚でしたら、もう一度こんな感じでやっていただいて、またビデオいただいて、もう一度こんな流れでやってみたいと思ってます。
ありがとうございます。
A very smart assessment on him by himself, right? I love that he's doing that assessment. However, when he's going through a process, that assessment that he just made to kill him, right? So make sure mind is focused, but he was good though. The correct assessment, but don't.
ここまで考えていただいたのは、コーチは実はありがたいんですよ。バックスイングも気にするのか、やっぱりダウンスイングだけに集中すればいいのか、質問としてはとってもいいと思いますけれども、今のところは、ドリルでやってみて、ください。
はい。
Yeah. So, don't try to change the positions we talked about by changing another position. Just try to do the how much, when, and power.
はい。
All right, guys. So thank you so much for watching the video. Again, we had our somewhat decent interpreter over here, Alex, Mr. Alex himself, very famous. Say hello, basketball player. And then also, thank you so much for at golfstyle0720. Thank you so much for joining, guys. I'll link down his Instagram below. Go check him out. Really appreciate his help.
今日はお疲れ様です。いつものまあまあの通訳アレックス、世界的に有名なキウイコーチが楽しいレッスンができたと思いますけれども、で今日のスペシャルゲストにもお礼を言いたいんですけれども、ゴルフスタイルの0720さんでした。ありがとうございます。ここでゴルフスタイルさん、もう一言お願いします。
今回はレッスンしていただきありがとうございました。ちょっとこれを機会にしっかりスイングを修正してスコアにもつなげていきたいと思っています。ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございます。コメントにゴルフスタイルさんのインスタの名前を入れますから、ぜひ登録してください。ありがとうございます。